Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. It is the Uncensored Match Build-Up Show. I'm joined today by John Reid and by Sam Walker for this one, so thank you very much for joining us. We'll be talking obviously Brentford, Liverpool, 3 o'clock kickoff, G-Tech Community Stadium. We'll be talking team news, we'll do our predictions and everything else that we normally do on here. I did just want to let you know though, I'll be live later on tonight doing a fan debate with a couple of fans from other fan channels, Terry Fleurs, Hugh Wizzy, Henry Wright, Simeon Daniel as well. We'll be discussing who will win the Premier League this season. We're going live at 6:45 tonight, so come and join us for that one. But yeah, we'll get into it then. John, Brentford sit 10th in the league. They've had good home form, broadly speaking, over the season. It's been really good actually, but they've had a little bit of a wobble in the last few weeks. What do you make of Brentford?
They're having a good season, I think. I think that it's weird almost, I think, to sort of look at them and look at the teams around them in terms of form and stuff and sort of what they've done in results. So, like, you know, cliche, but like the home form's been brilliant, their away form's been pretty average to slightly shocking. But there doesn't seem to be any sort of negativity around them. You know, they play really good football, they're well drilled. I think they're in that sort of sweet spot teams get to where they've got a squad together that's been coached for 2 or 3 years now. Like they haven't really brought anyone new in, like, per se. So everyone knows the role, everyone knows what they're doing. They can drop people in and out and stuff and make changes, and it doesn't really affect what they do. But they're playing really good football and scoring loads of goals. And, like, you know, he's in some senses possibly the safest manager in the league, I think. Frank, in terms of what he's got in that, like, that whole setup is obviously grown with him as a manager, but it's geared around him and how he works. He knows how to make changes that affect games. I've seen them play a couple of times this season where it's not been going well, and he's brought lads on, he's switched it up. You know, they seem equally as comfortable as playing like a back three, as playing a back four, as changing things up and playing with 2 up front or playing with 1 up front. He's got them really drilled into a style that just suits them and scores lots of goals, and it is entertaining to watch. And they're very dangerous. You know, they were a bit of a bogey team for us under the previous manager. You know, I'm not in denial about the fact that we should be aiming higher in terms of our level and that we should be better than them, but they are a very dangerous team and they can score goals from anywhere. Yeah,
John makes an interesting point there, Sam, doesn't he, about, you know, how they are well drilled, but it's probably because they've been together for a long time with the same group of players, the same manager and stuff like that, and it's borne out in the results. They are a solid Premier League club nowadays.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I like the term well drilled that you've used, because people just put that to, oh, that means you must be really good defensively, you can manage your space and clear the ball. But actually, you're spot on. They're a well-drilled team in what they do, and they know what they're about. They know who can do what in the team. They know which players are capable of creating moments and which the players are less so. They all seem comfortable in their positions in the squad. Like, you've got players like Mbeumo, who doesn't play that much, but he seems to be really happy there, and he knows what he's got to do for that team, and when it's asked upon him. They've got players like the lads who've come from Liverpool, who've gone there. Maybe not Carvalho, maybe he's not having the best season that he thought he was going to have. But Sepp van der Berg's a stalwart in their team now. I agree with what you're saying. I feel like they are a proper Premier League team, and they've got now a proper Premier League stadium. And I like Brentford. There's a lot to like about them. What I would say on the form is that I think, if I'm right in saying, probably a bit of that was circumstantial, the home form. They hadn't played, I think they lost to Newcastle, Arsenal, and they just drew at City. I don't think they've played Chelsea at home yet. They definitely haven't played Liverpool at home yet. I don't even think they've played Man United at home yet. So I do think that their home form was brilliant against teams around them and below them, whereas now they're starting to play against teams that they might expect to drop points to, and they are. So let's see how that transpires beyond tomorrow.
I think that's right, and you know, I'm looking at the teams that they've faced recently. Obviously, the last game was Brentford City. They lost to Plymouth in a bit of an upset.
Yeah, that was an upset. Yeah,
they smashed Southampton, as everyone does. Even Manchester United got a win against Southampton, albeit lucky. They lost to Arsenal. They drew away with Brighton. They lost to Forest. And
was that at home as well to Forest?
Yeah, they were at home. Yeah. And they were away to Newcastle. So that is real. Like, they've basically, in the last few weeks, they've played all of the best sides in the league, and then you include us in that this weekend. Yeah. So you're absolutely spot on. And yet still, their form, I'm looking at it now, they're third in the league table, 7 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses at home. And away from home, 18th. So they are third from bottom in their away form. Only 1 win, 2 draws, 7 losses. We beat them 2-0, didn't we? Diaz and Salah, was it this season?
First home game. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we've come up against them. We know what Thomas Frank's about. Obviously, he's a manager that I feel, John, he's going to get a big move at some point. He's always in and around the conversation, isn't he? But he just hasn't been given that opportunity yet. And I don't know whether it's because he's sort of been pigeonholed into this defensive type of manager. But I remember Brentford when they were in the Championship and they played expansive football. And he, for me, is a bit of a chameleon where he can do whatever he needs because unlike Ange Postecoglou, he realises it's about results and it was about staying in the league and securing yourself. And, he's talked about playing with a bit more freedom this season. He talked about it last season, but he had the injuries, didn't he, that sort of held him back a bit last season. But I think he's got everything as a manager, Thomas Frank.
No, it's a really good point. I think a lot of people have sort of been keen to put him in that thing of like, he plays defensive football and they play on the break or whatever. But even that, to be honest, like, there are moments team Brentford when they want to be, but it's crafted. It's not as if like, we'll kick it long and just one of them will go in eventually or we'll knock it down. Like they're drilled to play that way. But you're right in saying that like they played really expansive football when they come up and they were like really attacking and sort of took games to teams rather than sort of sitting back and like, we're playing a big team and we'll wait for our chance. He's I just think he's been sort of damned, if you like, by the sense that like he can't really go anywhere other than Brentford until it's a big club. So it's like you look at the setup they have at Brentford and you think like he'd do really well at like a Brighton because it's a similar sort of thing of like, we find these players and we coach them and we sell them on. That's the model. But he's got that at Brentford really to some degree. Like he doesn't need to obviously to go anywhere else for that.
It's a risk for essentially standing still.
Exactly, and it's like if you look at the teams who are above him, you could see that he'd maybe slot in well at Newcastle. I think the Postecoglou shout's great in terms of like
Villa.
But Emery's sort of
he's what he should be aspiring to be.
He's what he should, in the sense
I don't see Frank as a Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool, a good Man United, Man City, Arsenal, good Arsenal manager. I see him as a plucky underdog. Might get a stint at PSG.
But Emery's
Borussia Dortmund.
Emery's done exactly the same thing.
That's
and that,
shout that.
He's been given the reins at Villa to be like, make this in your image, and that's what he's done at Brentford. But that's where like none of those jobs, I don't think, apart from maybe Spurs, are going to come up, if you like. So you look at them and think like that's the type of thing. But maybe like a Dortmund, say abroad.
But only thing I was going to add is their wage bill's ridiculously low.
Yeah.
So that's something that he has to work within, which is why it's so impressive.
Yeah, what he's done. And listen, on the injury front this time around, that's Villa, Pinnock, Thiago, Hickey, all injured. But no new injuries after the game against City. And Mbeumo is the biggest threat, obviously. He's up there in the goal crunch, has 13 goals this season so far. He's a brilliant player. And he's the focal point of their side.
He is, and he's the type of player that I've said since the summer. I actually wanted us to sign him in the summer because I actually thought that we'd start to see the end of Salah from basically this year. And also this is not to be the case, but he's still somebody I'd be keeping an eye on because as it stands, we're not going to have a right wing at the end of the season. I think he's fantastic. I think he's rapid. I think he does both sides of the game really well. He's left-footed, cuts in from the right. He's exactly...
That's a bit of a unicorn as well.
It is. There's not many of them, and it could end up being a race this year to who can sign him because there's a few clubs out there who, United have got Ahmad, that probably sorts them out, Arsenal, Saka, but there will be a few clubs, including the likes of Man City, should they be around that I'll be looking for someone of his skill set, and I really, really like him. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's right at the age now where I cannot see him being at that club from beyond May. I think he's a fantastic player, and him and Wissa work really well together. What I would say is that there used to be 3 of them and now there's only 2 of them, so I don't care what anyone says. Not having Ivan Toney in this game, we should see the benefits of that because there used to be 3 of them run night and it was a nightmare. Now there's less, so it should be easier for us to manage, but given the opportunity he'll tear us one.
Just to stick it on the Mbeumo stuff with you, do you think he's good enough to make that step up to a club like Liverpool?
Yeah, I do, because people look at the when players change, people look at it very linear, as in you lose Mo Salah, you've got to sign someone who with the output of Mo Salah, Haaland, Palmer to an extent, Isak to an extent, whereas it's actually doesn't really necessarily work that way. You sign a really good player who's got the ability to score goals. Like if he scores 18 goals for Brentford this season, which would actually at this stage would be quite pessimistic, that shouldn't really change much if you move to a club like Liverpool, based on the fact they have more possession, more opportunities. I don't know if he'll take penalties or not, but you could see that mirroring across. But I think I think Liverpool would change if we didn't have Salah, and I think he would be the perfect type of player to come in and be part of that change in how we play. I genuinely don't see anybody else out there at the moment who could do what he can do for us, but that's a different conversation altogether. I think he's one of the best forwards in the league at the minute myself. I'd rather have him than Son if I had a choice right now. I know they play different sides,
and
but
the age is obviously a big thing,
where they're at, yeah.
Well, actually, I just checked while you were here. Mbeumo does take penalties.
Okay.
He scored 3 of 3.
Okay.
So he scored 10 goals from open play. Salah scored 5 penalties this season. He scored 13. So the step up, John, I think Sam's sort of alluded to it there. You would fancy get more goals in the Liverpool side.
Yeah, and he'd have more freedom, I think, as well, to sort of do stuff. He's very much or he's become, rather, because of things like Tony leaving, he's become the focal point of that team, hasn't he? And that he's the man they're trying to feed, he's the man they're trying to get things to, because they know he's the guy who can make it happen for them, and he's clinical in front of goal. So you'd imagine going from that to sort of like, I'm one of, on a match day I'm one of 3, but in the squad I'm potentially one of 6. You're a bit fresher, but also you've got that support around you where the onus isn't on you entirely to sort of make things happen or to build play. So he very much, I think, would add to that. But also, just to go back to Sam's points from earlier as well, is that I think we probably would change, because I think we play in such a way that at the minute with Salah, where we're so, like, it's almost the inverse of what I've just said. Like, we get the ball to him and
we enable him, don't we?
We enable him. Whereas, like, his record in terms of getting back and defending, like, we've had that thing about the right side for a long time now, where we're like, we could do with maybe a bit more legs, or you have to put a midfielder out there to sort of cover for Trent and Trent.
It's why Dom's so important to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we don't ask Salah to do the track and back anywhere near as much as we do a Louis Diaz or Cody Gakpo when they're playing on that left-hand side. Rightfully so, by the way. He deserves it. He's of an age where he can't make the same amount of sprints as he did 5 years ago after playing 50 games a season for however long, and all that type of stuff. So I think the points are right, and I fancy it'll be an interesting game. The other one, as Sam mentioned, is Wissa, isn't it, John? Obviously 11 goals in the league for him this season.
11?
So
wow,
got Mbeumo on 13, Wissa on 11.
Wow, didn't know that.
They just seem to pick these lads up, and like it's the magic touch, isn't it? But it's like they're so good at sort of bringing them in gradually. Like they get these lads, and it's like 2 years or so before like the mainstay and they're relied upon. But I mean, it's such a boon, isn't it? I mean, you look at, I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams in the league, but I'm thinking of Everton, sorry lads, where you think like even just one of them in that squad would make such a difference in terms of like the finishing, but to have 2 of them, and then obviously the rest of the team around them are quite dynamic as well, like in terms of like putting the yards in. But it's a massive boost to them, and I think it's great as well that like it means, I know it sounds obvious to say 2's more than 1, but he's got so many options. He can just play Wissa, he can just play his name's going to be Mbeumo, or he can play the 2 of them together, and you know what I mean? Like as a team, you never quite know what they're going to do, and he's always got the option to change it if needs to be from the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on.
No, because I was just more surprised.
He's still surprised about the 11
I just didn't. Yeah, I knew he contributed. I just didn't think it was that much. So between them, they've got like a lot. Like them 2 together must be the 2 most effective collective forwards in the league, I would imagine, because we haven't got anybody who's on sort of, are we on anyone on 10 for us who would kind of take us to,
I mean, not in the league, I don't
that's what
think.
I mean. Yeah, I mean, we might have 6 or 7 maybe, but like to have 2 players who've contributed 24 goals is quite significant. Saying that because Salah's got 18, we probably have got more.
You're not going to believe this, we've got 26 between Diaz and Salah in the league.
Wow. So what's Diaz on? 8. So but it's still quite like it's low, isn't it, comparatively? But it is. I mean, for a team like Brentford, obviously, who are what they are, like let's have it right. For us to not win that game tomorrow, it won't be because we're out. Like it can easily go to Forest and not win and play well. City, Arsenal, where they're at, Newcastle, you can play well at these places and not win. I thought we played well and not won against Forest overall, but I don't think you go there and play well and not win. I think if you play well, you win the game. I don't care how good those 2 are. I think if you perform on the day, do what we want to do, we'll win that game relatively comfortably. The issue with these 2 is they catch you out like Wood did the other day, and you go 1-0 down. You have a bad day, players aren't quite on it, they're a bit lackadaisical, they're not grafted as hard as they need to be. That's when teams like Brentford can really catch you, which has happened to us before, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a very short break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about Liverpool as well, because that's what we're really here for, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello everybody, I just wanted to tell you what you could win if you were in our Club Legend prize draw for January. This is a biggie. We're starting the new year off with a bang. It's this. A signed Liverpool shirt, signed by Ian Callaghan, proper Liverpool royalty, the record appearance maker for the Reds. 857 appearances he made. Not all in this shirt, you'll be glad to know, but if you want to get yourself a chance of winning this, head to redmenplus.com, sign up as a club legend, or upgrade your existing subscription, and you might just be the lucky winner.
Yeah, sorry, in the break we were just actually catching up on the Erling Haaland news, as Taylor puts in the comments here. I didn't know it was 500 grand a week because I'd only heard it on the radio. And in 500 grand a week for 9.5 years, 228 million
plus sign on, plus bonuses.
And also what the agents got.
Do you remember what Paul Joyce put out a while back saying if Liverpool were going to sign Haaland, it would have cost us effectively £770,000 a week, and they predicted that he would be on more like 900 at City when you include the whole package. What's it going to look like now?
It's insane, mate. I mean, outside of Chelsea, we've never seen a contract this long in football history, have we? And let's stick with it for a couple of minutes. People obviously interested in the chat and stuff like that. Like, there surely, John, has to be break clauses for point deductions and wage increases as well, as something me and Aaron were talking about before. Like, it's hard to imagine that 500 grand a week's going to be the new norm in a few years, but it could be.
It's so many ways you can take it, isn't it? It's like, because you're right in saying that, like, you know, he's not soft, and his agents, you know, and his family aren't soft. They must know that, like, either they know something about what's going on, man, like the charges and stuff, or they've secured themselves. You know, there's a way out for him if it goes wrong. But also, like, you know, and it's rare, I suppose, people say things like this, but you've got to give credit to City in some senses, because it's like, you know, that could be the new norm. Like, Neymar moved the needle so far on transfer fees, and overnight it was like, 100 million for the players, not anymore. And this could, you know, in 2 or 3 years' time, it could be something similar with wages, but he's now locked in, and it's like, nah.
It's actually gone the other way, though. You know, like, a lot. There's not that if you look around and most wages out there are nonsense. It's just what websites put out. Basically, you only ever see the top line figure reported in the end of years, don't you? But if you look at the reported, you've got to imagine somewhere around that. A lot of the wages that have come in for players now have been much more. You haven't had the Raheem Sterlings and the Ben Chilwells who've got like 250s, 350s at Chelsea anymore. They're trying to get rid of them, aren't they? It seems to have come back down because of the PSR stuff. There's a bit of skullduggery to this as well. This is going to absolutely hurt us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does. It obviously.
It's Mo Salah. It's not Trent. It's not Van Dijk. It's Mo Salah.
But also, like, I think about what it means for they're starting to talk about wage caps, aren't they?
Oh, they thank God for that.
And all that type of stuff. Like, is it they're looking at bringing in the
trialing, aren't they?
The trialing, aren't they? The percentage of revenues and all that type of
it's
stuff.
active with UEFA. It's not active yet.
Yeah, but then I think ultimately every fucking owner of a football club, especially our owners, are wanting a wage cap in.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. From they own the clubs, they want to make money out of the clubs. Wage caps does that. But like these ones where it's like, this makes me think, fuck it, they've done it. It's one of them where if Man City have done a 9.5 year deal on that, can they go back when the wage cap comes in, maybe, hypothetically speaking, and tell them to do that? That he's on that.
That's
throughout, isn't he? And that's his entire career. So I think there's a little bit of that involved as well.
No, that was the point I was going to make as well, is that, like, I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but I was reading one of the articles the other day about that they're looking to trial it within the league over like a 12-month period to see how it affects things, and like that to me rings true in what you're saying, and that, like, I think that could be a bit of City going, like, he's the asset we've got at the minute. Obviously they need to sign more players and rebuild that squad, but let's just do this now and get it out the way. And I don't actually know, because of sort of how fragmented sort of football finances are in terms of the UEFA stuff. Like, UEFA have got a different cap for PSR versus the Premier League and all that kind of thing. But look at what happened to Chelsea. Everyone was a bit like, Chelsea can't do this. No, they can't. That's silly. And then they did it, and did it repeatedly for like about 6 to 12 months, until the league in the summer finally got together and went, right, you can't give these type of contracts anymore, and change the rules. But
they started selling women's football teams in hotels. But what happens? They close doors. They start closing the doors. Don't they?
But I wonder if it's that type of situation as well, where they've gone, we know we can get away with this at the minute.
Yeah,
it's to what you're saying about the sort of the wage cap side of it. Let's just do it and get it done. And it's, you know, look how long it's taken for like the current charges and stuff, like how far they go back. It could be 10, 12 years. Like he'll be retired and be sat on Match of the Day talking about.
Do you think he'll be there for 10 years? I don't see it.
But I do think they might have priced him out of a move anywhere else,
unless they're doing the opposite. So I don't know what his buyout clause was, but he definitely had a buyout clause that kicked in after 2 seasons, which effectively would have meant now or summer would have been active. That's what they said. He's going to do 2 full years, then he can't move until after his 3rd year in his current contract that he's just got out of. The new one's got a 2029 buyout. So they said in one of the articles, the first break becomes in 2029. Could it be asset protecting? If City get in trouble, could he go out on loan for 2-3 seasons and still come back and have 6 years?
Oh,
there's all sorts of...
Or sell it for the
Well, there's that, or you're selling him for top money because
he's got a 9.5-year contract.
And that kind of covers some of the revenue that they're going to need to pay some of the wages next season. There's all kinds of ways that Haaland as an asset can go.
That's mad, isn't it?
Rather than going, yeah.
Let's talk Liverpool anyway. It's not quite as exciting, but Joe Gomez is still injured. Diaz didn't train yesterday as well, which is due to a sore throat. Slot did expect him to train today, and Jota's a doubt with a niggle. They're the injury updates. Nunes back from suspension, all that type of stuff. I'll start with the defence then. Interesting one for me here, because I'm starting to think that like Kostas Tsimikas should be given a run at left back for me. I don't know whether anyone agrees or disagrees.
I do. I think he'd at the point. It might have even been Josh Williams who tweeted it. Apologies if it wasn't, if it was someone else. But someone tweeted recently that it's like, I think now he's the option and Robbo's the rotating. Like he's the person you rotate in to give him like less minutes. And I agree.
Sam?
Tsimikas' delivery is much better than Robbo's.
Mate, it's a massive thing,
and that's the thing. I still think as off it as Robbo's been, he's probably better in the general play in terms of you do see Tsimikas do some strange things in games and make some wild decisions, which Robbo's done a lot more of recently, but I'm not sure you get that much difference if Tsimikas is on the pitch at the same time. However, if he can get us a goal from a set piece most games, then a cross or it's different, isn't it? I don't know if this is the game though. I'm not sure.
It for me, like,
against Mbeumo.
Whenever, it's a good point. Whenever Kostas gets a run of games, I think he always surprises me with how good he is.
Yeah,
and I think, I'm not sure he's one of those players who's good when he comes in for one game and then goes out again. I think sometimes, and there's loads of footballers like that who just need a bit of a run. I think we've given Robbo a run, and I don't think he's come out of a bad form. And I don't think he's done, by the way. I think Robbo's in bad form and has been for a month, 6 weeks. And I don't think his legs are gone either. I disagree and I'd argue with anyone about that, because I see him get up and down the wing all the time. I just think he's not playing very well.
Yeah, it's weird.
And yeah, there's definitely some of that to it. So for me, I would probably give Kostas a run of a few games to sort of see if he can improve and take that shirt. It is, for me though, it always in me thinking about, that is one of the places that I think Liverpool 100% need to sign somebody. And I think you know, there's so many people that we've been linked with. Obviously the Kerkez one is all around at the moment. That's got to be something that Liverpool have to do at some point.
Summer?
It's got to be this summer if it's not January for me.
Yeah, we have to go in for it.
So, anybody else questions over the defence? Is it just as simple, Sam, as Mbeumo and
yeah, I think Mbeumo will get better as well. A bit like Alisson, by the way, because I think we should have spoke about that. He's not going to get dropped, but we should have spoke about it. I think I'm not giving Alisson stick for the goal the other day because he takes it so early. I think it just goes in against most keepers. But we both know that, all three of us know that our top form Alisson might get something on that. I think he needs to play himself into form. I think Konate's the same. He just needs to keep playing and just get a bit sharper every time, and I think he'll be fine.
Question then for you on Alisson, so I'll stick with you. Yeah. Like, I don't know whether it's a come back from hamstring injury thing. I personally thought he should have gone with his legs.
Possibly, yeah.
I think diving down there was harder than just sticking a leg out. And I don't know whether it was a hamstring thing. And I would say the same about the Diallo goal against Man United.
The Diallo goal was shocking. He should have saved that. He should have caught that. He was just not... See, the difference is, right, we always go back to all games. Every time the ball's in the box, that Sells, Forrest, is expecting a shot and is ready to save it with whatever part of his body. It looks to me at the moment as though Alisson's not ready for the shot. which he's always been ready for.
He's always been on toes, hasn't he?
And he wasn't. Again, he did not expect Chris Wood. It's almost like he's not scoring from there, and he did. Like, us as fans can say that, but as a goalie, you've got to think the worst. And the same with the other one, he just didn't look ready, and that's all it is. And this is the type of game, again, where I do think Brentford will have more shots than Forest, but you've got to be ready. You've got to be expecting that early shot from these type of informed forwards, and we can't have another goal like that where you think maybe.
Yeah. What about you, John? Were you with Alisson and Kelleher?
I think it's hard because I agree with Sam. I think it's like a playing him into form kind of thing, and I think it's particularly given where we were in the season when he came back from injury. It's so hard to sort of be like, we're the best team in the league, and we win every game, and therefore you've got to, maintain that consistency kind of thing. I think it's a bit less difficult when you see sort of like some of the footage, like particularly that goal at United, but some of the numbers around it as well, sort of around like how many goals he's given from shots. I think it was like 9 from the last 15 was the one I seen, but I don't know if that was the thing.
I think it was 13.
It was quite high, and it was a bit like that shocked me a bit. I was a bit like, that's not great in any sense, but like that's certainly not what I think of when I think of Alisson. I think because he is such a good shot stopper. But it could, as I say, I go back to Sam's point. I just think it's I've seen nothing in him in his game up to the point where he got injured, and in his attitude or anything when he's on the pitch where I go, he's lost the yard, or he's it's in his head or whatever. I just think it's cobwebs, and it's a bit. It's an entirely different vibe. I think it's a sort of the Robbo thing where you were saying it can be a bit mental, but it's like you watch Robbo sometimes and you can sort of see that he's in his own head and he's a bit annoyed that he can't do certain things, or that he's tried something and it's not worked. I don't get any of that from the goalie. And equally, I suppose it's an easier situation to be in because we have always got the backup that Keller has there. If for some reason we think maybe we need to take him out the firing line for the game or whatever, I agree with Sam as well. I don't think this is that game, but like it's nice knowing we've got that backup. Whereas obviously Simicast and Robbo feel a bit much of a muchness in terms of level. But no, he's a big leader and he's a big presence. And this is a bit of a different angle, I guess, on the goalie. But one of my slight complaints about the team, maybe in the last 6 months, is that I feel we obviously lack for height a little bit, apart from the centre half and the goalie, but we also lack, I think, for sort of a bit of needle. There was a lot to be said, I think, even though people complained about it, for sort of like Hendo, Milner, having that sort of like, I'm just going to, like getting control of the game. And I think it really showed against United, and I think it really showed against Forest. That's not Van Dijk's game as captain. He's so calm. I think Ali brings that. He brings that. So I know he's obviously at the goal line for most of the game, but he brings that a lot, and you can see him bollocking people a lot. And I think we really need that. So I wouldn't drop him just for all reasons. Okay.
What about the midfield then, Sam? Obviously, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai seems to be the first choice, but they all three played in Nottingham Forest. Would you be making changes there?
No, I think, look, we forget that these footballers are built to play twice a week, and no successful recent Liverpool team did that, and I think that's what we should expect now. Like, I don't even buy into this whole Gravenberch just play. It's like he doesn't play cup games, Spurs aside, but he hasn't played another cup game this season. It's fine for him to play Premier League games. Like, that's what he's supposed to do. He's fit, he's well in shape, they're ready. Him and McAllister and Szoboszlai. Well, Szoboszlai missed loads of footing and played a half against Accrington, so it was a nice build up actually. I just think the three of them are built to go again, and then you can think about it later because you've got a fortunate situation coming up in the Champions League that we're in. So I just think this is about us going to the well again and actually coming back to Brentford. This is the situations for these type of teams where they're not used to playing their full hit twice a week, not having that much training time in between games, because we're used to playing these after going away in Europe or something, and they've got a full week and we haven't now. It's like they recover, we recover, we go again, we have one training day. So hopefully that benefits us. We should be fitter and fresher in this game than they am. So for me, it's the same midfield who are in form.
And that's it, isn't it? It's the sports science of it all as well, isn't it? You said it at the start of that. These guys are primed for 2 days a week. Brentford aren't. Brentford are primed for one. That's also a thing, isn't it? So massively. When it gets to 2, it becomes more difficult.
Last half an hour.
Like that. And that's it, isn't it? But one thing we have to do is we have to not concede the first goal again. Like, we have to go back to being fucking solid, don't we, John?
We do, and it was interesting that the manager sort of mentioned that in his press conference, and that he said, like, I can't remember exactly the words he used, but he basically said, like, we're not actually conceding, I don't think, any more chances than we were before. Just now they're going in, kind of thing. But in some senses, like, I think Brentford are the right team for that, because I think it again sort of touches a little bit on what I was saying about like the goalie and stuff and leadership. But I think like they're not going to let us rest. We if we think we can go and play Brentford and sort of I don't say take the foot off the gas, but sort of start slowly for 10 minutes, they won't let us. They'll just be on us and score. And it's like, they're exactly the type of team, I think, to give you a bit of a shot in the arm and the fear to where like we have to start quickly here and we have to start and start strong. I do wonder, just slightly off Sam's point, I think, on the midfield thing, not whether he'll change the midfield, but in that sense, whether he might freshen things up just slightly in terms of what they do. Watching Forest, I was very like, this feels like a game for Elliott. It feels like it feels like we need someone who can sort of go between the lines and who's comfortable pushing forward. Brentford did a different proposition, but I just think, maybe 60 minutes in, whether you're looking for something like that to sort of break up how we're playing, because I think we are. I'm not saying teams have sussed us out a bit, but I do think teams are more comfortable with the idea that if you sort of press us, whereas under the previous manager we would still try and go past the press, now we're sort of passing it back to the centre half and passing it round, and I think teams are comfortable with that now and going, well, we know we can sort of push them back a bit into like a mid-block. I would prefer if we went a bit Klopp, if you like, for a couple of games, just to sort of take people away from that.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of man marking that's happening at the moment, isn't it? And we know that sort of Achilles heel at the right hand side's cropped back up as well, Sam.
Yeah, it has, and showed the other day it wasn't Trent, it was Salah. A weak challenge, and then we can see the goal. And I almost feel sometimes, and this could be a case of this game, to John's point, which I totally agree with, is that we're almost too careful. We're trying to be too calm for the first 20 minutes. Just keep the ball. Not anything mad. Don't overcommit. But when you're sometimes too calm, you've not got that agency to go and get it, and then you can concede because they have, which is what happened the other day. So I am a bit conscious of that as well. I do think that Szoboszlai second half breaking through the lines was key to us disrupting Forest and creating chances. We didn't score from the chances, but I think that's another type of thing we need from this game as well. Is we need to see McAllister arriving late and Szoboszlai bursting through as almost the furthest man at times, just to break up what they're doing. And if you're gonna track him, sound, but it just creates more space.
Well, the first half, it's why I thought Liverpool was so poor when Diaz was dropping deep against Nottingham Forest. Szoboszlai was just stood basically as the 9, and I'm like, you're not moving. You've got to move to the football. Like, I'm okay with Diaz dropping deep. I'm fine with it. But there's still got to be movement. You can't just stand there. And that Murillo was absolutely excellent and dealt with pretty much everything, didn't he? I just thought we were pretty shit in the first half, if I'm being honest, against
predictable,
Forest.
weren't we?
And that's the word. And excellence in the second. And to talk about Harvey Elliott and to bring Curtis Jones into the conversation as well. Like, I'm worried, and I did a deep dive show this week with Josh, and I've been worried for a few weeks about Elliott and what he's going to do. I think he's going to be a fantastic player at some point. I'm just not sure anymore that it's going to be at us, because it just doesn't look like Sloth fancies that type of a player. It goes back maybe to the height thing that you mentioned and the physicality and all that, but clearly on the ball he's brilliant. But there's games that we've been screaming out for him, he's just not been used.
He hasn't, and like you say, you look at. I'm loath to sort of look into the manager's history, given some of the things, but particularly when you asked about the formation thing, how he is.
Don't mention the numbers to managers. Take it from me.
But you look at what he's done in the past, and sort of the idea of playing with wingers and stuff, and we seem to be being linked with wingers as well. And you think, well, does he want instead of sort of like a front three and a midfield three that are all comfortable on the ball, does he want sort of 3 midfielders, 2 wingers and a striker, or a forward, or whatever? That would be bad for Elliott, I think, because as you say, when you look at his height and stuff, you just think, I don't see where he fits in terms of that. But then you've also got lads in there like McAllister. The criticism, I think, of our midfield at the minute, if there is any, but from a playing standpoint there isn't. I think it's just that we've got, apart from Szoboszlai, there's not a lot of physicality in there. Gravenberch is quite big, but he's not like the sort of, he's physical in the sense that he's box to box. He's not Fabinho.
He's strong for his size, but he's not Fabinho, is he?
And that doesn't make, I think, for Elliott. But I do think it might just be a case of horses for courses with the manager, and that, like, obviously he's still getting to grips with the squad. Elliott featured prominently until he was injured in pre-season and was one of the standout players in pre-season. So he clearly knows he's got a player there and what he can do. It's just whether there's a way we can tweak how we play, but we've been so successful with it up until this point. 6 months into the season, why would you? So I don't know what the solution is, but I would like to see him And you also get the feeling as well that he's not going to sort of be under the last manager. He was the Salah replacement. He was the Salah sub, and I don't think that's going to stay true.
Well, he said to him, the manager, didn't he, that he doesn't want to do that. But Sam, I think when I think about that right hand side, I think Trent's a bit of a weakness at times defensively because he vacates the space. Salah doesn't track back as much as the others. The last thing I would want if I was a manager is probably another creative player who drifts to that right-hand side, who can't get back like Szoboszlai, because I think that makes your weakness weaker.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at the midfield makeup, if him and McAllister are on the pitch at the same time, as good as McAllister is, they all joke about how slow he is. He's not that slow, but they don't do that for nothing. He's not the quickest midfielder or the most dynamic player in our squad. If you've got him and Harvey sort of in the defensive line, it's tricky, isn't it? You've suddenly got a concern in your hands, and that might be part of it. I totally agree. He's not the best presser. He's not the worst. He gets about. He's fit. He is quite good, but it's one of them, isn't it? Where you've got Mo Salah, who's basically just trying to funnel all of his energy into getting him on the ball and creating things, which rightly so. You need somebody there who's elite off the ball, which is what Szoboszlai is, and Curtis is probably just a little bit below that. So those two do so much for us off the ball. It's very hard to ignore that. The only thing for Harvey to interject in is that he's left-footed.
Yeah.
If you've got two midfielders on the edge of the box on either side, and you've got one right, one left, it changes the shooting and crossing angles. When you've got three right footers, it's dead easy to defend. You know exactly what's coming. Why Trent checks in and whips it with his left all the time.
Loads of that recently.
Because he has to, because we haven't got. There was times the ball got to Kurtz at the edge of the box the other day, and he can't shoot because he's not left footed. He doesn't feel confident. Half he's left footed. And I think that was a mistake for the manager not to bring it, but whatever. I just don't see him starting in this game. I think he'd be lucky to get on. That's just where we are, and I'm gutted for him, to be honest.
What about the front three then? I can see loads of FSG chat in the comments, by the way, and I'm gonna address some of it at the end of the show with the gents. So if you want to stick around for that, you're more than welcome to. So forwards first. Obviously, it looks like Jota's now at a niggle. Núñez is back. Diaz seems to be the only other player. I doubt we're going to see Chiesa up there. I doubt we're going to see Salah moved inside. So, Sam, I'll start with you. Is it going to be Núñez or is it going to be another Diaz playing up front?
I think even if Jota was fit, I think him off the bench is so dangerous, and I think we've got two games coming up where you probably want Jota in, especially Ipswich, deep lying defence, not much space in the box. I think it would have been a game for Diaz, maybe, or Núñez anyway. What I like about what Núñez does when he starts, obviously we know he's suffering from form, is the worst thing you want as a defender is somebody who makes you defend all game and have to concern where they are. That's the one thing about Núñez that he does better than anybody else in our team, is he makes you worry where he is all the time. That helps Salah and hopefully Gakpo, which is why I think with Diaz having a sore throat, you could play him and he might not the energy levels. It's just not really worth it when you've got a guy who's fully fit and he's had a week off. It makes sense to play Núñez for that, for the health reasons, but also that first half, no one occupied them centre halves at all. Diaz is pretty poor all game, and I think that what Núñez can come in and do, you know, if he's not dwelling on his lack of goals, is he can come in and run them ragged, and hopefully whether him or Szoboszlai or Maka or the two wingers can benefit from that. So for that particular purpose, and he gets back well and helps us defend, I think away there I would utilise Núñez, and he's big as well for defensive headers. I think it makes sense to use him, see what Slot does.
John, do you agree, disagree?
Entirely agree. I think it's you know, Sam's covered that perfectly, but in the sense of, like, you know, he's fresh. Like, I agree that it would have been a game where it would have been sort of like flick a coin between all things being equal, sort of between Diaz and Núñez. But if Diaz has had a slight thing, even if it's only like a minor thing, like, yeah, just start Núñez, and you've always got the option of Diaz coming off the bench.
And maybe Jota, by the way, he might be in the squad.
Jota might be in the squad.
Jota's done excellently from the bench as well.
Oh, so good.
And I think I honestly think the only sort of question mark would have been if they were all fit is who's on the left for me, really. But I think, you know, obviously it sort of picks itself in terms of if you're picking Núñez there, then Gakpo. But
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I thought he'd go with Diaz, to be honest, but you both make a really good point.
It's just the sore throat makes it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Picking up on that, then, how do you feel about Diaz as a 9? Because I think it was good for about 3 games, and then I think a lot of teams now have seen it and are a bit like, we know how to defend this. Yeah. Although I do like Szoboszlai going up there.
I don't mind the sort of alternating verticals.
Yeah.
For me, Diaz as a 9 is your Man City's, your Arsenal's, your blah, blah, blah. I think when Liverpool need to go out and win a game, my choice wouldn't be Diaz for the 9. It would be Jota over him for the most part. I thought there was you look at the shot map from the two players the other day, and you look at the heat maps from Jota, who played about 35 minutes or something, versus Diaz, who played 75. Diaz had 1 shot from outside the area. Jota had 4 chances inside the area. If you could give Diaz the instincts of Jota and get him in there, he's not a centre forward. He doesn't have those instincts, that innate ability to find a little bit of space in the penalty area.
Do you think Jota can do it on his own though? Because I think he's shown this season he struggles.
Liverpool need a centre forward, Sam.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
What I mean is with Jota is he's brilliant. He seems to thrive when there's somebody doing the you stay there and I'll pick up the space. We haven't started like that yet, but you know what? I'd love slotting one game to do it from the get go. He did it against West Ham in the cup, but that was a cup game.
Like a Jota behind the Diaz.
Well, that's where he's been. Even against. I know he scored from the corner, but we had 2 strikers on the pitch for most of that game the other day, and that was when we created most of our chances. And actually, we stopped creating chances for Jota when Diaz goes off for Curtis. Then they got packed in and we lacked. Then we had that 1 chance off Gakpo, didn't we? But Jota thrives, in my opinion, when somebody's holding the 2 defenders. You got the 2 wingers doing their thing, and he can just be aggressive and run at them. I'm not sure him on his own, like you were saying, playing him in front of him. He can get lost sometimes. Yeah. But
it's interesting, isn't it? So, I've said this for a while now. I think Liverpool absolutely need a new centre forward.
We'll do it in the summer, though, won't we?
Absolutely. Like, if there's one available, if the player they want is available now, they should do it now. I don't think it is, and I think it's going to be a bit more Diaz than Nunes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There. I think it's going to be a bit more Bobby Firmino-esque.
I keep telling people this. It's not going to be an Isak.
No, I don't think it is. I just don't think that the way teams defend us, and Isak is probably where he's not. I'd love it to be him. Also, his injury problems, but he's fucking amazing. Just don't think we have the space.
Yeah, I think the links are interesting as well, because I think a lot of people have queried sort of the links with, and I'm not going to pronounce his name, but the lad at Napoli.
Osimhen?
No.
Oh, Kvaratskhelia.
That's the one. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, interested.
But I think if you're looking at that and you sort of following the logic through, you're looking at Nunes. Well, if he goes in the summer, and then we are bringing Diaz more into the centre, but then you need someone. You know what I mean?
I think Diaz is going to go.
Think?
I do, yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Should have done a transfer show today, shouldn't we?
Should have done, yeah, absolutely. I think Diaz is going to go. I think Nunes is going to go, and I think a lot depends on what the 3 contracts do.
Yeah, same.
Because there's 5.
But if you lose
and
Salah,
I think you're looking for a left back as well. There's fucking 6. But, like, you know what I mean?
Do you think Diaz only goes to Barca though? Do you think it's only Barca? Otherwise, he just stays.
Maybe.
Just tries to run his contract.
I was going to say he's only got 2 years.
But they might just
2 years, yeah.
Because the thing is, because of the landscape now with teams just not having no money, the only way you can maybe get your signing that you want to go to now is if you run your contract down. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like Trent's not going to Madrid without no contract.
No, because that's the way the Madrid operate.
Sign a 4-year deal, go when you're ready, sell it.
Yeah. Barcelona have been big time with stupid transfer fees, haven't they?
Yeah.
I mean, we did it to them with Coutinho.
Yeah.
Like they're
Griezmann.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. But anyway, let's do. I promised you we'd look at the FSG stuff. There's been loads and loads.
Something happened.
No.
Oh, right, okay.
That's the point.
Right. Oh, right. Okay. I thought something had come out in the news or something. There was a big discussion point.
It's been all week on the shows. We've been getting absolutely fucking hammered for not calling the owners out. And there has been. It's just done me head in, to be honest with you. And I can see it. We're having a conversation. There's a few people chatting about with what we're doing, but most of it is just about FSG. So, lads, I'm going to ask you on your honest opinions on FSG as Liverpool's owners. Say whatever the fuck you want. If you hate them, fucking say it. I don't give a shit. I am not paid by fucking FSG. If I was, I wouldn't have holes in my fucking shoes, which I've bought.
Yeah, you would, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah,
I probably would. I'm that type of a person, you know what I mean? I have never, ever taken any money from the football club in any fucking thing I have done. 15 years I've been doing this. I've been telling you my honest fucking opinions, and I'll continue. I was at the fucking picket line when Liverpool wanted the last Yanks out, Hicks and Gillette. We covered that as Liverpool fans. If I believe that that is what needs doing, I will fucking do it again, right? 100%. Okay? But gentlemen, your opinions first on FSG. Who wants to go? Because if any of you fucking hate him and want to say FSG out, say fucking FSG out if you want. I don't give a shit. It's your opinions. Your mates of mine. If you want to say it, use fucking Redmen to say it.
Well, it's not going to get it from me. I look across football and I don't see. I'm not saying that we're the best. In my opinion, I think they're doing a good enough job. I think it's fine. I've got no issues at all with it. I don't see a better ownership group out there, and people will say, "Oh, Tony Bloom at Brighton, different model altogether. Give him £700 million a year and see what he does with it." I just think it's totally different. I think the way we operate is about the club being winning as much as possible. This ambition and top four is bollocks, because it's business 101. Success breeds money, breeds success. They might not want to spend billions of pounds to win, but they want us to win. And if we don't win and Slot doesn't win, he will be sacked. That's what will happen. Klopp obviously proved that and got to the end of his tenure and decided to go. But he won, and that's why he kept his job. So I want us to win. I think FSG want us to win, but they have a model in place, which is we spend what we earn as a club, and the directors will not take dividends, and that's kind of accepted, I think, within the club. What's everyone's problem though? Because John Emery's not scouting players. No. If we find out that Richard Hughes has gone to Michael Edwards and said, "I want to sign this player, me and Arna think he's a fantastic option for our team," and Edwards says, "Sorry, you're not having him, we're not spending no money," and then it turns out with the financial reports we have money to spend, everyone's got every right to kick off. Why are we not buying players that are available that make us better? If we've identified them, we can get them, and the owners are saying no. But I have never once ever thought that that's happened. And I actually think two of our best windows of all time have been the two windows where we've done nothing.
The one where we won the Premier League.
The one where we won the Premier League, and the one where we didn't buy anyone in January. Do you know why? Because it meant we weren't stuffed financially for the other windows. It meant we could go and get Konate in the summer. It meant we could go and buy Jota, Thiago and Simicast. We should have bought centre-half that summer, whatever, mistakes happen. But by doing nothing, sometimes you're able to do things in the future, and it's about trust. Edwards can go and say, "I want 80 million for Kvaratskhelia." He's desperate to come to us. He's more likely to get it than if he's asking for money for all kinds of players all the time. And then we're kind of at the end of our tether because the trust's gone. I don't have an issue unless we find out that they're blocking us spending money. Until that day, I trust that Edwards and Hughes have got the best interests of this team at heart. So I don't even know why we're talking about FSG right now. Moan about the director of football being a picky bastard. Don't moan about the owners who are probably not even thinking about transfers while they're off doing Red Sox and NBA things at the moment and golf things. It's a bit of a non-starter. That's just me. John.
No, I'm very much the same. I think context for these things, which obviously is what the internet's not great at, is as it happens, is so important, because I just think you look at what goes on sort of around where we are and where we were when this ownership group come in and where we've ended up. There's so many other factors that come into play. We have got a model, and it's sort of the thing that's always held up against them, that they don't want to spend money because it's all about making the most profit and getting the best value and stuff. Why is that a bad thing? I don't want to be Barcelona and sort of get ripped off. But equally, it's worked and it's got us to a place, and that therefore makes the job harder. When we look for players now at Liverpool, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was probably...
We could have signed anybody because they would have improved our side.
Exactly. And you reach a point where it's you've got to be,
You've got to be fucking world-class, John.
You've got to be world-class within the top 1 or 2% to come in and make yourself an improvement in this squad. And that massively narrows your field down. And then as it happens, because there's a lot of clubs in world football who are quite successful, most of those players want to go to big clubs. So it's very hard. And, to sort of sit here and go, well, did let guy say, go to Chelsea? Well, no, we were there with the money, and the player wanted to go to Chelsea. Simple. That's not the owner's fault, is it? Do you know what I mean?
It was a smoke screen, though.
It was just, apparently. But it's when they've had to put their hand in the pocket and do stuff, in terms of the playing squad and on the field, they've always done it, and they've always, mostly, I would say, been successable. And all right, it was sort of the tail end, and maybe the Klopp.
They've made mistakes. They've made mistakes.
Absolutely.
I think. I don't want to say concerns, but I do think if you want to criticise the owners for anything, you can criticise them for some of the off the field stuff. I won't criticise the ownership at all for anything they've done around the ground, because I think the way they redid up the stadium's been fantastic, and I think it's such a boon, and I think it's so obvious that they're probably going to do another stand, but they're just sort of like getting everything together, and the way they financed all that and done it mostly seamlessly in terms of around seasons has been great. If you want to talk about like ticketing, if you want to talk about access, all those other things, then yeah, there's a bit of a conversation. But I would also say that's not an FSG thing. That's a Premier League thing. Like that's a club wide. That's a a league wide thing where we can talk about like what we're having to pay to go see the match and the fact that they want to do other stuff, and the sort of entrance of America into our league in terms of like they're almost trying to apply NFL logic to how we do things. Kieran Maguire was on the overlap recently. He spoke really well about that. Obviously we've had Gareth Roberts on here lots over the years and stuff. He's obviously involved in all that side of it. There's lots of stuff around that where you can go and get it, but if you're just talking in terms of what they've done and on the pitch, I don't have a problem. And I'll be honest with you, 99% of the fans I speak to who go to the match and who are around the club in the city don't have a problem with them. I think a lot of it is just online stuff where it's we're looking at the teams around us doing things, from a lad who maybe lives in America who's a City fan, and there's a lad who maybe lives in, I don't know, like China who's a Liverpool fan, and they're arguing across paths about something that's like, well, it's not relevant, lads. Like, everyone who goes to the match who I see and who I speak to regularly, and I include all you guys in that, and people behind the camera here and stuff, we're all relatively happy. And don't get me wrong, there are criticisms of the ownership, and again, people who work here and do stuff here do make them. We've had conversations off camera and stuff where certain things get brought up. I don't always agree with them. You know what I mean? I think, well, actually, no, they've been okay. So if you get other people here, they might say different. Yeah. But as far as I'm concerned, I agree with everything Sam said, and I don't have any criticisms. No.
Just to say to you, Chris, because I don't even think you necessarily need to answer this, because you've done it 1,000 times. Here's a question for you to answer then, right? Sorry to cut you off here. I'm hopefully just saving a bit of time, because I've heard you say it 1,000 times. At what point, right, did football become more about what's not happening on the pitch than what's actually happening on the pitch? I grew up watching football, and I didn't care who Liverpool signed. I just wanted my team to win, and I supported whoever had the shirt on unless they showed otherwise. Now, obviously, sometimes your goalie was throwing it in, and so you get a little bit of conversation. We need a new goalie, but you didn't. But it's the obsession now with what we're not doing compared to actually just focusing on tomorrow's game and enjoying the game and seeing where it takes us.
I don't know when it's happened. There's been a swing. I think it's Sky Sports News. I think it was a 24/7 news cycle changed absolutely fucking everything, and because they then had to fill those 24 hours a day. Yeah. And that was it. And it's like, fucking hell, you see it now. It's what's next. Even when you're watching a game of football, they're advertising 14 games of football to you. What's next? You can't be happy with what you've got. It can't be enough that you're just enjoying a game of footy. It's got to be something else. Anytime anyone shouts, we've won the transfer window, get out of me fucking life. I'm going to be sick. It's disgusting. Like, you're just a fucking knobhead. Like, no one ever really wins the transfer window.
The team that wins the league.
Yeah, the team that wins the league.
That's the truth. Or the European Cup. Yeah.
And that's it. Like, for me, the owners have made loads and loads of mistakes down the years, mainly off the field. There have been seasons where I have battered my head against the brick wall. Why haven't we done this signing? I don't know, is the honest answer why we never signed the fucking centre-half. In the summer, I was the same. Why haven't we signed a centre-half? I could see that Kanate was going to get injured. Jarell Kwanzaa was young and Joe Gomez was getting injured. Everybody who goes to the match can see that. And actually, I do know people at the match who don't like the owners, and that's fine. They're allowed those opinions. Yeah, I'm all right with that. Like, you know what I mean? When my neighbour's son, he fucking hates them, and that's fine. I'll have a conversation with him about it, because I actually find it quite interesting to understand what another person's point of view is. It doesn't mean that I will necessarily agree, but what I will tell you is shouting a fucking abuse at people isn't how you get someone onto your side. Like, and that's what I feel like we've had over the last fucking week for no reason. Calling us out for all kinds, calling us fucking sharks. And
really?
Like, there's just loads of it online. And if you want me to stand up and support your cause, right, A, convince me, and B, stop calling me a knobhead. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to just go, oh, now, here you go, lads, thanks for abusing me for the last 4 years. I'll join your side and lead your cause. If I feel like the ownership is a problem, I promise you now, I will fucking absolutely, and every one of us will as well, because that's what fucking happens. But right now, Liverpool are top of the table. Do I want Liverpool to sign a player? Yeah, I do. I think Liverpool could do with signings. Do I want Liverpool to sign the wrong player? Absolutely not. And if the right player isn't available now, you don't sign because you can't sign a player for 6 months and fuck him off anymore.
Do you think if Richard Hughes was sat here, disagree with anything we're saying about players?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Also, their hands are tied. Like, you've still got the 3 contract things, but say what you said before about Diaz is true. So if you need 6 players, that's a rebuild. You've just got a new director of football and he's had 12 months. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what he's getting ready for. He knows we're doing a rebuild or whatever. Like, we don't know until it happens, which is sort of riffing out what you're saying.
It's
about
hard,
the pitch.
isn't it? Yeah.
You know, we could be sat here in 6 months and going, oh shit, like there was a plan and the plan was this and they've done this. But until that, and it's by the way, it's in the club's interest that we don't know that plan. Because then if we don't know it, other fans don't know it, other clubs don't know it.
Think of it this way, right? And
So true.
The January transfer window, I think, is really interesting for Liverpool. I think we need a new left back. Whether we can get the one we want now, I don't know. I think we still need another midfielder who can play a little bit deeper long term. I think we need a centre forward. We definitely probably need somebody who can play on that right hand side at some point.
Yeah,
down the line, right?
yeah.
If you're planning for your squad in January and you buy a left back when you've got 2,
It's mad, that, isn't it?
right? And you buy a centre forward when you've got 2, Jota, Diaz, Nunes, blah blah blah. Probably Nunes and Jota.
Yeah.
You've spent your money there and you've got 3 for 2 positions. What happens if you're planning that and Van Dijk, Salah and Trent don't sign? And you've blown your budget, but you've got 3 left backs and 3 centre forwards. That's got to come into their future planning, I think.
Yeah.
Because they'll be hopeful that they sign them.
It's also carrying senior pros. You can't, like, people don't understand this who don't know the game. I'm not saying us 3 sit and understand, but we probably understand it a bit more. You can't carry 3 senior left backs in your squad, because what happens is, let's say it's Robbo or Simicast who drops out the squad week in, week out. What happens to them? Then what happens to their mates in training? Their agent, they start acting up. You know, they might not, but the likelihood is you're going to have problems. Same with the centre forward. You know, do you really need Darwin Núñez sulking around the training ground every day or getting cast off? It's not good for the club. Culture's important. And paying their wages, it just doesn't make sense. So I think we've got a full squad. But until we start shifting players out, we're not going to really replace them in, are we? No. Unless they come available.
Yeah, that's it then. Okay, well there you go. That's been the build-up. Score predictions for the game against Brentford.
I think Liverpool win 2-1.
I'm going to say 2-0.
I went for a clean sheet last time and didn't get one, so 2-1 as well. Don't forget, join me tonight where we'll be discussing 7:15 who's going to win the Premier League with Arsenal, Man United, Tottenham fans. So join us for that one. Sure, we can talk more about FSG if you'd like. If anyone wants to, by the way, send us a fucking video with their criticisms, then send us a video. Interact at theredmentv.com. If it's a proper criticism and you know it's a good argument, I'll put the video out on the channel. How's that for you? Thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for subscribing, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ra.